Next up, we've got the panel discussion, which will be about the collaboration between designers and developers. And some of our panelists are Maya, Lauren, Marilyn, and Lauren.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Everyone.
Hi.
Cool. I'll hand over to you, is it?
Cool. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to our panel discussion. I'm really excited to facilitate this for us today and interested to hear everyone's experiences and stories that you can share with the audience. So we're going to start by just doing intros, of course. So I'd like everyone to mention your name. What is the type of work that you do, and what is it that you like most about what you do? So I'll start. My name is Inez, and I'm currently the head of product design at 22/7. And what I love most about my job is that the core value of helping people is something that's sort of, it's like pushed throughout the organization, regardless of the teams or, you know, the responsibilities or such. So it's, in terms of like collaboration, it really, that value pushes through, which is amazing. So I'm going to start by asking Marilyn to introduce herself and the type of work and what you enjoy the most.
Okay, well, my name is Marilyn, and I'm a product designer at 22/7, which is a free budgeting app from Old Mutual. What I love most about my job is, well, I like to think of myself as a creative problem solver, Superman. So what I really love about it is that I get to help people manage their money better, which is something that speaks volumes to me at this moment in time. So yeah.
Lauren Green. Got two Laurens here.
I'm Lauren Green. I am based in Cape Town, South Africa. I am an Android developer as well as occasionally a UX and UI designer, and I'm based at Snap Mobile. So Snap Mobile is an agency that develops awesome mobile apps, so Android, iOS, Flutter, and web apps for clients. And what I love about working for Snap Mobile is that I get to work on apps that are built from the ground up, and I get exposed to a variety of clients. I also enjoy working with awesome people, and I kind of like to think of myself as a bit of a unicorn because I do a bit of occasional UX and UI design, but I am an Android developer, so it's really awesome that I get to do both sides.
Amazing. Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm an Android developer for a long time, and at the moment I'm working at Luno. And what I love about my job is that I get to build cool things and that it's super creative. What I love about Luno is that one of our core values is to make our customers happy. And the other thing I love about Luno is that we have small teams where we have iOS, Android designers, product people, all in a small group trying to build the best thing that we can.
Amazing, thank you. And then Lauren Stratum.
The dreaded mute button. So yes, I am Lauren. I am currently a service design lead. I'm a freelancer at the moment. So currently I'm working on some really, really cool things at ABSA. I have a long history in the financial services industry. I've worked on financial managers. I've worked on banks. I've built banks from scratch. I've helped banks that exist get better. A consistent theme throughout my career, though, has always been focused on the customer. So whatever role I've been in, I've done UX, I've done product, I've done quite a couple of different things in my, it's a very short career because I'm so young. No, I've done quite a few things across my time, so I'm a bit of a polymath too, and that's rolled up really nicely for me into service design because it allows me to look like across the value chain, understanding business and product, like Jax was talking about earlier, right through to development, implementation, even outside of digital into physical channels. So that's actually what I love most about my job too, is it's never the same thing. The channels are always different, and the stuff is always complicated, which I think is good sometimes.
Cool. That's really interesting. It sounds like everyone here is sort of multi-skilled in the sense that they do jump around on the typical role. So this will lead for interesting discussion. I'd maybe like to start with Lauren Green. I mean, so for someone who specifically is skilled across both design and engineering, could you maybe tell us a bit about your current working relationship between the teams and the collaboration there? What's working, what's not working?
So currently I'm working for one of Snap's clients, which is a leading Kenyan bank. And so basically how their structure is they have different teams, and within each team they have the front-end developers, so the iOS, Android, web, and then the back-end developers. They have QA testers as well as designers in each of the teams. So I am in this team structure, but then I'm also part of the design team. So I am focusing mainly on UI for Android as well as animations, but then I also do features occasionally. But I'm currently the only developer that is based in the design team as well. So I attend all their design meetings as well, which is really interesting. And then I get to give input early on, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how do you think that has sort of benefited you?
Well, it's definitely benefited me in the sense that I have learned a lot more about design through being a part of that whole process. And it's definitely benefits them too, because they get technical feedback early on in the process. And yeah, so at the moment I am the only developer, but they want to have an iOS developer and a web developer also in the design team, so that there's way more collaboration.
Very cool. And then similarly, I mean, Maya, you mentioned that you've got small groups of also the various skills in each group. So is that quite similar to what's been described?
Yeah. So for me personally, I've dabbled in the UI UX world, but it's such a mind shift that if I'm busy coding or busy trying to solve a technical problem, I catch myself taking shortcuts, which is not necessarily in the customer's best interest. So I think it's important to have some kind of separation there. But at the same time, the teams that I work in now, they're really close-knit teams with all the competencies, and we have really good rapport on the teams. And then that makes for a good understanding and a good crossover between the design and the technical solutions.
Okay, so both like teams where there are different skills in each team.
Yeah, so it's like a cross-functional team. Our teams are cross-functional. Right. So we have back-end product, iOS, Android, design, all in a small, tight-knit group that solves one particular problem for the app.
Okay, that's very interesting. Marilyn, do you want to share a bit about your working structure and whether that's the same or different?
I would say my working structure is almost similar to but in the sense it is cross-functional, but then again our team is quite small. So currently our designers are platform specific. Currently I was on iOS and now I'm on Android and web, so we kind of do a round robin, so the designers and the developers each get to work or cohesively together. So yeah, I'd say it's similar, but not. I wish that it was more cross-functional, where you literally just have the Android, the iOS, and the web, everyone working on one particular feature. But because we have 3 separate platforms, it's not possible at this moment in time with our current size.
Cool. So Lawrence Freedom, you've heard now like sort of different working relationships. Based on those that we've heard and yours that you've experienced in your career, what would you describe as like your ideal collaborative structure?
So this is going to sound like a bit of a plug, but the environment I'm working in right now is actually probably one of the best I've been working in, because of how we're kind of set up and how we're geared. We're on a very high profile project. So of course there's lots of budget, which means there's all the things that we all want to have all the time. So I'm just lapping it up and I'm enjoying it while I can, because I know eventually it'll come crashing down and I'll have, team of two. But right now, actually, we're quite a full complemented team, quite cross-functional as well, which is really great. So we have sort of a service design capability on this particular project right now. We have a process engineering capability on the project. We have channel-specific designers and developers in our environment. So they're kind of cross-platform, but per channel. So the designers just design for app, they translate across both, they look for, the UX across both. And then we have developers who are kind of more technology specific, but we kind of engage them that way. And then we also have like a very strong business team that also consists of sort of like a business architect, the product owner, us as the kind of lead designers in the space, and also the technical architects and the kind of lead developers. And I think it's been really cool to watch how sometimes even, and I think later some of the questions I might get to give you this example, but I'll give you a sneaky peek now. Sometimes we've even had situations where we've kind of solved in a way, thinking about the existing kind of constraints and things, and we're trying to push the boundary. And then we've had an example recently where our architect has come back and said to us, listen, guys, I've got an even better idea. And this is how we can take this to the next level. And he's got that customer at his forefront. So sometimes even the customer-centric innovation is coming out of the more technical side of the kind of triage of, or the trio of, not a triage, no, let's not say triage, because that means we're fixing things that are broken. A trio, that kind of triad, I think was the word I was looking for. So I think that's been very cool for me to experience in this kind of space where we've had so much buy-in for the customer experience that, we just are working nicely and the structure works nicely. And of course, nothing is perfect, but I think this has been my best experience so far, actually. I'll be perfectly honest.
That's I'm so happy for you that you're in that space.
I'm happy for me too for a short while.
But that's actually something that I did want us to touch on is, can we share some examples with the audience of times when the collaboration, when like there have been good outcomes because of the collaboration. So Lauren, as you mentioned, that was like additional ideas that you might not have received without the collaboration. So I'm going to ask maybe Maya, do you have any other examples of when this type of collaboration was extremely beneficial?
Yeah, I have a recent example of a thing we designed, and there was a flow with a end of flow screen on the end, where we needed to communicate something to the customer on a previous screen, and there was just no way for us to technically get that message to the right place on the right screen. And our designers very carefully figured out that they could solve it visually with a different problem, and that just made from a technical point of view, made the implementation easier and made it better for the customer. So there's sometimes where just like that conflict that Jax was speaking about, where there's something where you get stuck and you can't go through, and then you just say, listen, this is not working this way, this is not working this way, and then that actually makes people be creative because they find another good creative solution through.
That's nice. Ways to sort of like inspire the creativity with people.
Yeah.
And I guess all of this is also like the buy-in from each team and each collaborator is really important. Marilyn, I wonder, have you ever experienced or what are some like tips that you would recommend for how to get the buy-in to create these spaces?
To get these spaces, I am a firm believer, and I've seen it in practice, and I've seen it work. Co-working workshops. They're done. Co-creation workshops. Correction. Yes, they're done very early. Jax has mentioned it. I've heard it from another talk. We actually implemented one recently. It really brought the team together. Especially, we also brought in a product. Someone from product in one of these co-creation workshops. And it also, with this buy-in, it also got to, like, developers got to understand exactly where the pain points are, and they actually came up with solutions to actually improve on what the designers did not identify at the time. So that for me was, I would absolutely suggest that people should do co-creation workshops if you can. We don't always have the time to kind of put them in, but
yeah, it's true. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits, definitely. And then I guess that, you know, the sort of hard part is the conflict and dealing with that, right? Because traditionally we're supposed to hate each other and not understand each other and never see each other. So, I mean, a lot of teams are very mature in having got into the space of like alignment on customers. And a lot of teams are still in progress of getting to that space and overcoming these ways of traditionally doing things. So Lauren Green, I wonder if you've got any tips for teams that are still going through that and trying to resolve these conflict areas. Maybe some examples that you've sort of worked through.
Yes. I think first I'm just going to maybe give some tips maybe for a working relationship between developers and designers. So firstly, I would say be collaborative. Getting devs involved early in the design process and getting them involved in meetings is really beneficial. And I think it's important to check with your product manager or Scrum Master to ensure that you're involved in these important conversations so that you get a chance to give your input before it's too late and before the designs are finalized. And devs should always review their specs and designs thoroughly. And if they have any questions, they should not be afraid to ask the designers if they're unsure. And also like Marilyn said, the workshops and encouraging knowledge sharing is so important, and it really does help. And then the second thing you mentioned was an example of conflict. I think kind of recently there was actually this kind of happened. So I was working on, another developer in the team was working on a feature, and then it was like a motion layout for one of the screens with a collapsing toolbar. And then I also started working on that screen as well and adding to it. And then in one of the design meetings, I actually found out that this entire screen was being redesigned. And like everything that we worked on was now changed. So yeah, that's why it's so important to have these discussions and developers to be involved in this so that things like this doesn't happen and it doesn't avoid duplicate work or work that is no longer actually valid.
Yeah, definitely. Maya, I saw you chuckling when I asked the question. Did that hit?
Oh, yeah. So I've got a good sort of super practical tip.
Tell us.
I know it's the night before sprint end, right? And you've put your tickets up for review or for test. So what usually happens at that point is the designer looks at the screen and then they say, oh, but this font is supposed to be this value of gray and the font size is the wrong thing. And then the initial reaction, I've had that reaction before, saying, I just want this thing to work. I don't care if it's not the right gray, right? So, but I've overcome that because what I realize is that those small things make a huge difference to the customer, because it means that the product looks polished if those things are fixed. But at the same time, it's equally cool to understand that the devs just want the thing to work first. So what I've done quite successfully in some sprints is I always have a little polish ticket. Up front, I have a polish ticket so that it's easy for a designer to look at it and put the polish tasks on the polish ticket. And then there's a place and it is captured and we are going to do it and we really want to do that. So that validates that input, which is important. And it also frees it up so that the testing can see the functional problems that possibly are there so we can prioritize properly. And that also allows the dev then to focus on fixing the functional things and then being able to fit those small things in at the same time. So that's just preempting that scenario.
The polish ticket is amazing. That's
the polish ticket.
Brilliant idea. Actually, I've written it down, so I'll implement that tomorrow. Lauren, do you have any other kinds of tips like these? Like, it's really nice that that was very tangible, and I think it's something people can take away. Do you have any other tips we could use?
Yeah, so look, I think everybody's kind of really touched on a lot of what I had kind of had in my mind when you posed the question. I think the other thing I just want to add is that, like, I'm a researcher at heart. So I think we must remember as designers that user data, it can be helpful. It can be a tool for all of us to remove our bias, not just designers, also for developers who are equally as familiar with the products and the customers and the users with a different lens. So for me, I've found, when in doubt and you're really in a sticky situation and you just can't find the compromise within you, take yourselves away from the problem. Even if you have to get another team to run the research for you, take your ego out of it as well, because sometimes we get so caught up in being like, no, but, customer is right. And the developer's going, but I need to go live. And, all the things are crazy. And the product owner's like, hair is on fire. And the program manager's like, near the edge of the ledge. And, so then that leads me into my second tip, which is, this is really a reminder for everybody, is just, and I preach this often, empathy. It's not just for customers. And it's not just for your service colleagues. It's also for your program colleagues. So I had touched on something there, and if I can put it from a different sort of lens, it's exactly the same example, but it's about understanding what's important to that other colleague you're working with in that time. So knowing as a designer that it's the 11th hour, the dev team have likely been UATing themselves and, pen testing, and they're all dying to just go on a 12-hour sleep shift, and, us being pedantic about, things at that time can be unhelpful to everybody. And so, that's for me is where it comes in, is understand where everyone's coming from. It might help you also adjust your own perspective and say okay, maybe this isn't important, which is then the last one that I want to add is also just understand which battles to make into battles. Is it really yes, maybe the font needs to be right, but could we just let go of the, maybe the color, maybe it's fine in the same gray as it was above, unless there's a solid usability reason for it, then explain that and help everybody understand. And so it's a combination of those things. So, but then I also just wanted to say sometimes, and this is applicable to every single person on your project, sometimes people are just assholes, right? And sometimes you have to just kind of walk away and go, I'm gonna let my mental health kind of win this round and just go, okay, it's cool. And that's not just developers, it's designers, it's product. Pick your battles, is this the one that you need to really fight over? Because maybe if you let this one go through, you can, in the future, you can say, look, okay, we've compromised before in your favor. Now is the time to compromise in the user's favor. So for me, it's just a combination of those things as well.
Yeah, Marilyn, I saw you sort of agreeing a lot with what was said there, and laughing at some things. Do you have any experiences or learnings that you want to respond with?
I would say the Fixer Up ticket, we have what we call design QA tickets. So I really resonate with that one. It is a saving grace. But over and above, in terms of probably just the way we work, and we're all using Slack, I would say, if anything, if a conflict arises, nothing helps better than just getting off your messages and getting on a video call. A lot of miscommunication can come through, even just by emailing and trying to resolve it, can actually just be resolved if everyone just get on the same page. I found that a lot of miscommunication happens and words get missed, and that's just in terms of requirements even. So yeah, that'll probably be like one of the tips that I've, other than what everyone else has mentioned.
And that's super important. I agree. I've recently learned that lesson, so it's really important. Thank you. So thank you everyone for sharing all of those stories. I'm going to hop on to giving the audience some time to ask questions. We've got the first question already that's directed at Lauren, Green, and Maya. You mentioned that both of you have a close-knit team. How do you deal with new people joining the team to be part of this tight or close team? Who wants to respond first?
I can go.
Maya.
My experience with new people are they usually super excited and keen. So they've got like a really nice, fresh energy. And that can actually boost the morale of the team. And then to just make sure that new people really feel happy to ask questions and to say that they don't know. And the best way for me to get new people to do that is to ask questions and say that I don't know. So that's by creating that. And then if you foster a new person like that, then they become part of the team pretty quickly.
Lauren, do you want to respond?
Yeah, and just to add on that, I think it's really important to make newcomers feel welcomed and part of the team, and it's also really important to have like an onboarding process. Often people join the team and they don't really understand how the company works and how the product even works. So it's really important to have that onboarding process where someone can walk them through that. It is something that the company I'm working for is still working on, but also just to offer help and just to say, if you need any help with coding the repo and showing them through the app, and just being really helpful really does help new people to become a part of the team.
Thank you. We've got another question. Days filled with back-to-back meetings seem to be the new norm in this remote world. Any suggestions about balancing meetings with getting actual work done? Lauren, Stradum, you're smiling like you have an answer, or you don't have an answer?
I'm smiling because this is like the $1 million question, right? Like we're world over right now. This is the question of how do you, when the work is in your home, how do you turn the work off, especially because, most of us are very driven, we're passionate about the things that we want to do. And so turning that thing off can be hard. This is an age-old trick, and I think I used to do this, and most of us probably did this in the real world too, is blocking our time and really just sticking to that, like owing to it's like your work self-care, like stick to that time, put that stuff in your diary, block out 30 minutes to do your timesheets, to do your admin, to do your compliance training, to do, kind of the review, the documentation, all of those kind of things. Put time in your diary and protect that time fiercely. Again, be flexible, hair on fire meeting must happen, but try and do that in advance as well. I found putting it in sort of 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time where I can see maybe there's going to be a gap there. I might not know what I'm going to do on that day, but you can bet your bottom dollar by that day I'll have something to do in those couple of hours. So that's kind of how I've been managing it. But yeah, and also just, I guess the thing is also not to let the boundaries of your day seep as well. Like have a hard cutoff. Try and keep your work away from your personal space where possible. But But yeah, mostly it's just like kind of put space in your diary so that people can't put stuff there. That's kind of the best for me personally. That's how we've managed it so far.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone else on the panel have any other suggestions? How are you guys managing your work-life balance?
I have a suggestion, but it's more for companies. It's more for companies rather than the employees. What I would really love is if meetings were all recorded and they were optional, so you could watch them later. That would be really awesome.
Then you could watch them at double speed, right?
Exactly.
Cool, is it? Okay, here's another question from Nicole. So this is interesting. All the compromises affect the overall experience. Are we willing to accept that our users aren't getting the experience they deserve in the name of choosing battles? Who's a battle person? Marilyn, you look like you have someone.
This is something that I've battled with as a designer because you always want the best experience for your customers. But I actually had to look to my developer, who actually kind of told me that don't be married to your design and that this is an iterative process. And it was only once I was actually pairing with another developer and I got to understand the whole process of like, get your customer to something that works, a working product at the end of the day. Your customer might not know that this is not the best solution. As long as it's working, that is what you should be aiming for. Anything that's not working is a slap in your customer's face, and also to you as a business and to you as a company. So yeah, that is one thing that I would say that we should try to aim for. Aim for something that's working, and then you can iterate and improve upon, because with each new release, with each new development, your customers will appreciate that. And you as a business and you as a designer will feel that you're finally getting to the solution that you want and improving on that experience. So that was a mind shift that I had to also still struggle with. Still kind of do at times, but yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I think it's also, like the more you spend time with the person who does the different work, like the more you start to understand how they experience it and also realize what you didn't know about them and what they do and what they value. So these are some really nice learnings. I would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening and sharing your experiences and your tips. I love how tangible they are and the fact that we could all probably do something different tomorrow. So thank you very much. I think we're done. Pam, are you going to close? Bali? Okay, great.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. It was really, really an awesome session, the panel discussion. Thank you so much for the tips. Took quite a few tips there. And yeah, the collaboration as well. Thank you for that. It really went well and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.